Okay, yes, I know I look silly. Now, do I care? It's only a body. If you're identified with your body, then you're going to be very concerned that you look just so all the time. Maybe you want to step back and look at that, start watching it. There are little ways when you're observing yourself that you can tell uh, where you're coming from. This is a sweatband, and you see little lumps here and there. I have crystals in it. I picked the seam on the inside, so there's one here, there's one at each temple, one in the back, and then on the side, and then one in the very back at the base of the skull there. And those are crystals to which I have affixed small magnets so that I get the electromagnetic effect working together. And I find them useful. And I'm just crystal crazy anyway, so. All right, now, I'm still working on the identity thing. And it has an exciting feel to it. And so, of course, I want to share it. Be in heart. When you're with me in heart, when you're in heart altogether, you tune in on a feeling, sensing level. Our higher dimensional senses are coming online. And just call it intuition. A sort of sensing goes on that I find is really awesome. When I'm watching, as a for instance, the NDE stories that I'm so fond of, as I'm centered in heart, listening to people, not everyone has had a really, really deep experience with their NDE. The ones that have, though, you can really tell, you can feel it. And there's not a way to explain this to mind. But I don't need to, because you can do this yourself. You don't need anybody telling you things that you can find out for yourself. So be in heart. We as light beings, the group of us, people that would be tuning into this journal, are largely ahead of the pack when it comes to recognizing, at least mentally, that we're not the body, not just the body, not the mind, and that life is eternal. A lot of us have come a long way with this. I'm going farther. So are we all. And so when you want to take it up a notch, where do you go? What do you do? I look at the people having their NDEs. Very few of them, when they do the life review, get a life review of all of their incarnations. Mostly, the consciousness they're in is the one directly related to the lifetime they just experienced. And they're not in their greater self. They're not with themselves on that level that ties together all of their lifetimes. And that's not good enough for me or for you. I mean, if we want to find who and what we are, why limit ourselves to just one lifetime, right? Got to go beyond, beyond, and ever beyond. And so what I'm finding successful is to step back, and ever step back, and quit identifying with things that can be seen, touched, heard, tasted, smoked, whatever. If it's physical, if it's of 3D, it's not your higher self. It's your vehicle that you're using. It's the props, it's the scenery, it's the set. All right? And we want more. Okay. And so we do crazy things like wear crystals all over the place. It's a body, folks. It's not me, and it's not you. Okay, so as I've said before, I'm finding it really pivotal recently. I mean, just in this last week, things are really clicking for me. Really pivotal to look at not just the NDE, but the life review. To really be with people, to link up with them when they're sharing about that. It seems to me to be the figure 8 that links together, well, let's do it this way, the life in spirit and the life on earth. And so the life review seems to stand in the gap at the middle, at the nexus. And still, it's not enough. But that's where we are. Let's start there. We've all had we all have loads and loads of lifetimes going on right now. We all have oodles and gobs of these life reviews. It's not something that we need somebody else's experience for. When I see them, I link up with myself and with my own. It helps to transport me home in consciousness, into higher consciousness, higher dimensions. Okay, and anything I can do, you can do better. I mean, that's just what man has done, man can do. And if anybody knows where that quote came from, let me know. I use it often enough. I'd like to, give credit. Identity. We know it's nothing that can be seen or spoken about. I mean, look at the people who have had these NDEs trying to put things into words. It's a major challenge. If it wasn't for the fact that that was my specialty in this life, I had an experience, I don't know if I've shared it yet, I may have, in St. Louis, in the Arch Museum there. I walked in and I was, bam, instantly in higher dimensions. So much so that I was not functional in my 3D body. I'm glad I had my friend with me to take me by the hand, lead me to a seat, and I had a really awesome higher dimensional experience there. A lot of stuff happened. But you know how when you get so high, and then later on you look back at it, and I'm glad I took a moment when it was over. It was an experience of probably a couple of hours all told. And I was filled with so much. Some light beings came down a big ramp and welcomed me. And it was just a big experience. The thing that I wrote down that I didn't want to miss, I wrote it down on a bookmarker, is what they told me. I am a translator of the heavenly language. I still don't really know what that means. But I like to stand in the gap and give it a go. Things that don't fit into words, oh well. What I'm finding is that the secret is heart. Because if your listener is also in heart, then it's not such a big deal that things don't fit into words, because we're communicating on a higher level. And higher is a relative word. I know, words anyway. All right, so who are you? If you put yourself at the point of your life review, in heart, not in mind, and then look at this life that you're leading now, it will shift priorities. You can actually have what amounts to the kind of a shift people get from their NDE by doing this. Higher self will give this to you. Remember now, Mellon Thomas Benedict had a life review, a near-death experience, and he goes back into the light daily. This is doable. Everything is shifting anyway. Frequencies are rising all around us. It's like we're being buoyed up on this and carried, almost carried into the higher dimensions. We are multidimensional beings to begin with, or this wouldn't work. We already are. And so it's a matter of waking up to what already is. And so, and remember, I've got I've got 20 or 30 hours of NDE stories in a playlist that you can take advantage of. So you don't have to think about it. You don't have to fish around, you know. You just click play and let them roll. So I'm finding the life review spot as the best one to put this lifetime into perspective. That's a good start. If we could just get our feet under us in this lifetime, that's excellent. I'm shooting for the stars, but you start where you are. If you're going to be practical and if you're going to have something that you can anchor and that higher self can make good use of. Okay, now, who and what we are isn't limited to this one lifetime. Well, duh. We have loads of bodies running around in loads of embodiments. All time is now, is simultaneous, so you're living all of your lifetimes right now. And that makes them really accessible. All those life reviews right now. All of this stuff is accessible, so get rid of any beliefs that you have that limit you around this. Okay? You'll find them come up when you look at things that challenge your beliefs. They'll come to the surface where you can see them and choose to get rid of them. Adopt new beliefs to put in their place. We've all been programmed, and this is the way, more or less, that I have found really helpful to change the programming. I mean, I worked with neuro-linguistic programming for a little while too, NLP, and I went at it very directly, you know, in a very action-oriented mental kind of an approach. So you do what works for you at the time, and it'll feel right. If you'll just keep putting your focus of attention in heart and get used to this feeling sense. It's a sixth or a seventh sense. It's a higher sense. It's a direct link up to source. And so a lot will flow through it if you'll just make yourself present to it. Doesn't work when we're in mind. Doesn't work when we're focused on the outer world. You have to be in heart, focused on self. Okay, there are some requirements. They're not too heavy. You know, they're not hard. They're just awkward at first. But you get used to them. You really do. Okay, so we have all these other lifetimes. So I'm not really eager to put too much emphasis on this one. I mean, if we want to say, who am I? This ain't it. No single lifetime is it. I'll go you a step farther. I don't think even if I put all of my lifetimes together, that's it. I want to go for the level of control that's up above that. I want to go for the common denominator in all of them. And I don't have a word for it. So I'll just say higher self. I don't know. I'm fishing a little bit here. But integration and balance are the heart and soul of what I'm after here. Integration at the highest level possible. And since there's infinity and eternity, that will always be a receding goal. There's no final enlightenment. I don't think there's a point where we can get to and say, I am enlightened, because that sounds like an end. Every end is nothing but a new beginning. We'll be seeing that up close and personal come the 21st of December this year, when we see the one cycle in the midst of its ending is just another one beginning. Now, a radically different one, probably, but there's no real endings when you're eternal and you're infinite and you even transcend that. Like Robert Young likes to say, get up above the stars and look down. Try that one on for size. Or I heard somebody say, who were you before the Big Bang? Who are you now? Link those up. There's loads of ways to play with perspective, and it's pure delight and joy. And so it's important we get rid of the idea that there are problems. What's a problem is a mindset that looks at life that way. That's a perspective on life. That's an angle of vision that you're free to adopt or to drop. Empower yourself. There are many ways where we've given away our power, and we do it mostly by adopting beliefs that turn out to be false. Well, that's fine. All we need to do is the best we can do in this now. That's all there is. This now. You don't have to answer for any other thing. This now is sufficient. Okay? So it doesn't matter what went before, quote unquote. This now. Stay here. Here now. That nexus point, the here and the now, or the now here, which is also nowhere, I love it. I adore that. That is just awesome to me. Now here equals nowhere. Just put the two words together. By staying there, it's the same thing as staying in heart with a capital H. Okay? It keeps you focused, and when you're focused like that, you're tuned in. I'm going to call it the seventh sense. You're tuned into this seventh sense, which will guide you. It will give you a reading. As long as you stay centered like that, you'll get a reading on what you're listening to, who you're listening to, what you're reading, what you're hearing, whatever. What you're contemplating or pondering. You'll get a reading on it. Okay, so what are we if we take all of our lifetimes and roll them together, tie them up neatly with a little bow? Who is it? What is it that's up above that, orchestrating the whole thing, that's so multidimensional and so able to multitask to such a level? Oh my freaking God. And it's what's really awesome is that it's us, okay? But I'm finding I have to take on my divinity incrementally. I just haven't found it's something that I can just wrap around myself like a cloak and walk away with. There's such a thing as ego. And you won't have any worries with it if you stay centered. Because and this one I really can't explain. But there seems to be a divine attribute of humility. Go figure, I know, but you explore your own heart connection. This stuff can be confirmed by you. Don't believe me. Check it out. Do it. All right? There's a humility there. That's where you come to terms with the fact that you don't know diddly squat. The mind is convinced it knows all this stuff. And sure, the mind has a bunch of stuff in it. That doesn't qualify as knowledge on the higher levels. It just doesn't. That's child's play. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not putting anything down at all, ever. All right? Everything is okay. Whatever you have in your now is fine. I mean, it's fine. It's just you want to give yourself permission to reach for your bliss, for your joy, for the highest. You want to give yourself permission to enjoy yourself. And as we do this, the limits that we've put on ourselves just start dropping like flies. And I don't wish the flies to drop. That's maybe not a nice picture to present. There's a lot of these pictures that we're better off not using, like rule of thumb, my friends. Do you know what the rule of thumb is? It's a good one to drop from your lexicon. Common law in England was that, or Great Britain, was that a man could beat his wife with a stick as long as it wasn't any bigger around than his thumb. That's the rule of thumb. Ladies, let's ditch it, and let's help our men ditch that little saying. Find a better one, okay? Rule of thumb is out. All right. Goodbye is a good one. It's a contraction for God be with ye, from an earlier version of English, goodbye, God be with ye. So if you're an atheist or an agnostic, maybe you'll consider saying so long, farewell, or see ya, and drop goodbye. Suit yourself. Make yourself happy. Okay? Go for what lights your fires. That's the way this whole thing is happening. Give yourself permission to be worth it, to be worthy of pursuing your bliss. Stand at the life review. Look back on this life and realize the job and all the rest of it is oh so secondary. That's the matrix that we get into. It mucks up our priorities. But we're rearranging them now, and so that's fine. Okay, now I don't want to talk too long here. It still hasn't, I'm birthing something here, and it's not birthed yet. But I think this video is long enough that I'll call it a wrap and talk to you again soon. Good evening.